A knock at the door was the last thing I expected that evening. But when a stranger handed me a letter from my late daughter, it unraveled a secret so profound it changed everything I thought I knew about my family. I never thought my life would turn out this way. At 62, I imagined mornings filled with quiet coffee rituals, tending to my small garden, and maybe the occasional book club meeting with the ladies down the street. Instead, I wake up to the pitter-patter of tiny feet, the smell of spilled cereal, and Jack and Liam hollering about who gets the blue spoon. They're 5, sweet and chaotic all at once, and they're my grandsons. Their mother, my daughter Emily, passed away last year in a car accident. She was just 34. Losing her felt like losing the air in my lungs. She wasn't just my child, she was my best friend. The twin boys, they're all I have left of her. Every time I look at them, I see Emily's bright eyes and mischievous smile. It's bittersweet, but it's what keeps me going. Life as their grandmother/mom isn't easy. The days are long, and the nights feel even longer when one of them has a nightmare or insists the closet monster moved. Grandma Liam wailed just last week. Jack says I'm going to get eaten first because I'm smaller. I had to stifle a laugh as I reassured them that no monster would dare step foot in a house with my in charge. Still, some moments break me. Trying to keep up with their boundless energy, school projects, and endless questions about why the sky is blue or why they can't have ice cream for breakfast. Some nights, after they've finally fallen asleep, I sit on the couch with Emily's photo and whisper, "Am I doing this right? Are they okay?" But nothing, not the sleepless nights, not the tantrums, not even the crushing loneliness, could have prepared me for the knock on the door that evening. It was just after dinner. Jack and Liam were sprawled out in front of the TV, giggling at some cartoon I didn't understand, while I folded their laundry in the dining room. When the doorbell rang, I froze. I wasn't expecting anyone. My neighbor, Mrs. Cartwright, usually called before stopping by, and I hadn't ordered anything online. I opened the door cautiously. The woman standing there wasn't familiar. She looked to be in her late 30s, her blonde hair pulled back into a messy bun, her eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying for days. She clutched a small envelope in her hands, trembling as if it weighed more than it should. "Are you Mrs. Harper?" she asked, her voice quiet and unsteady. I tightened my grip on the doorframe. "Yes. Can I help you?" She hesitated, glancing behind me at the sound of Jack squealing over a joke Liam told. I'm Rachel. I need to talk to you. It's about Emily." My heart stopped. Nobody talked about Emily anymore, not without treading carefully like they were afraid I might shatter. And yet here was this stranger saying her name like a bomb she couldn't hold any longer. I felt my throat tighten. "What about Emily?" "It's not something I can explain here," her voice cracked. "Please, may I come in?" Every instinct screamed at me to shut the door. But there was something in her eyes, desperation mixed with fear, that made me reconsider. Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. "All right, come in." Rachel followed me into the living room. The boys barely glanced her way, too engrossed in their cartoon. I gestured for her to sit, but she remained standing, clutching that envelope like it might explode. Finally, she thrust the envelope toward me. "Give me the boys. You don't know the truth about them." "What are you talking about?" I asked, utterly baffled by her audacity and the strange demand. Rachel hesitated, clearly sensing my unease. She took a deep breath, her hands still trembling. "Before Emily, before she passed, she asked me to give you this. I didn't know where to find you, and I wasn't ready, but you need to read it." I stared at the envelope, my hands trembling as I took it. My name was written on the front in Emily's handwriting. Tears blurred my vision. "What is this?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Rachel's face crumpled. "It's the truth. About the boys. About everything." What truth? My voice rose. The boys stirred at my tone, and I quickly lowered it. "What are you talking about?" She stepped back like she'd said too much already. "Just read the letter. Please." With shaking fingers, I slid the envelope open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly. It was unmistakable Emily's handwriting. My breath caught in my throat as I unfolded it, bracing myself for whatever was about to come next. "Dear Mom, if you're reading this, it means I'm not there to explain things myself, and for that I'm sorry. I didn't want to leave you with unanswered questions, but I ran out of time. There's something I need you to know. Jack and Liam? They aren't Daniel's sons. I didn't want to tell you because I thought it would hurt you. But the truth is, they're Rachel's. Rachel and I had Jack and Liam through IVF. I loved her mom. I know it's not what you expected from me, but she made me happy in ways I never thought possible. When Daniel left, I didn't need him, I had her. But things got complicated. Recently, Rachel and I weren't on the best terms, but she deserves to be in her boys' lives, and they deserve to know her. Please don't hate me for keeping this from you. I was scared of how you'd react. But I know you'll do what's best for them. You always do. Love, Emily. The letter was heavy in my hands, as though the weight of Emily's truth had seeped into the paper itself. Emily's secret life unraveled before my eyes in her neat handwriting, each word cutting deeper than the last. Rachel sat quietly across from me, her face pale and drawn. I loved her, she said softly, breaking the silence. We even fought before her accident. She didn't think I'd step up as a parent. She was afraid I'd disappear if things got too hard. I shook my head, still struggling to process what she was saying. Emily told me Daniel left because he didn't want the responsibility of children, that he just walked away. Rachel's lips pressed into a thin line. That's true, in a way. Daniel never wanted to be a father. And Emily, all she wanted was to be a mom. It wasn't easy for her. She struggled to make that dream come true. But Daniel couldn't understand that. He couldn't understand her. I stared at her, my chest tightening. What do you mean? He didn't leave because of them. No, Rachel said, her voice thick with emotion. Emily told him everything after the boys were born. She explained that they weren't his, that they were mine. She even told him about our relationship. Tears welled in my eyes. And he just disappeared. Rachel nodded. She said he was hurt, but not angry. He told her he couldn't stay and pretend to be their father, not when they weren't his. Not when she didn't love him. My throat felt dry. Why didn't she tell me? Because she was afraid, Rachel said. She thought you'd never accept it. She thought she'd lose you. She didn't leave me because she stopped loving me. She left because she loved you more. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Emily had carried all of this, her love for Rachel, her fears about her family, her struggles with Daniel without saying a word to me. And now she was gone, leaving Rachel and me to pick up the pieces. I wiped my eyes, my voice sharp. And you think you can just walk in here and take them? After all this time? Rachel flinched but didn't back down. No, that's not what I want. I want to be part of their lives. Emily wanted me to be. She left me that letter because she trusted me. Please, Mrs. Harper, just give me a chance. I didn't reply. I couldn't. My mind was a storm of emotions, grief, anger, confusion, love. That night I couldn't sleep. The boys' peaceful faces reminded me of how fragile their world was, and I knew I had to tread carefully. The next morning I invited Rachel back. The boys were eating breakfast when she arrived, their chatter filling the kitchen. Rachel stood awkwardly in the doorway, clutching a bag of storybooks. Boys, I said, kneeling to their level. This is Rachel. She was a very close friend of your mommy's. She's going to spend some time with us. Is that okay? Jack frowned, his little face scrunching up, like a babysitter. Rachel knelt beside me, her voice steady. Not quite. I was friends with your mommy when we were in college. I'd like to get to know you. Maybe we can read some of these books together. Liam peeked into her bag. Do you have dinosaur books? Rachel smiled. A whole stack. Over the next few weeks, Rachel became a regular presence in our home. At first, I watched her like a hawk, wary of her intentions. But the boys took to her quickly, especially Liam, who adored her silly voices during story time. Slowly, I began to see her love for them not just as someone trying to fulfill a promise to Emily, but as their mother. One evening, as we washed dishes together, Rachel broke the silence. Emily was scared, she said. She thought I wasn't ready to be a parent. And at the time, she wasn't wrong. I worked all the time. I thought providing for her and the boys was enough, but she needed me to be present. I didn't realize it until it was too late. I glanced at her, the vulnerability in her voice catching me off guard. And now. Now, I understand what she was trying to tell me, Rachel said, her voice breaking. I know I can't make up for the time I missed, but I want to try. It wasn't easy. There were moments when the tension between us boiled over, when I felt like she was intruding or when she doubted herself. But the boys were thriving, and I couldn't deny the joy Rachel brought into their lives. Slowly, we found a rhythm. One afternoon, as we sat on the porch watching Jack and Liam play, Rachel turned to me. "I'm sorry for the pain I've caused you," she said. "For keeping secrets. For not stepping up sooner." I nodded, my voice soft. "It's okay, Rachel. I know Emily kept a lot of secrets. But I don't think she meant to hurt us. She was scared." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. She wasn't ashamed of me, you know. She was afraid of how the world would treat us, of how her family would treat us. I reached out, squeezing her hand. "I didn't know. I didn't realize how much she was carrying." "She loved you," Rachel whispered. "She talked about you all the time. She wanted to make you proud." Tears welled in my eyes as I looked at the boys. They were laughing, their faces so full of joy it almost hurt to look at them. She did. Every day. In time, Rachel became Mama Rachel to Jack and Liam. She didn't replace Emily or me. She simply became an addition to our little family. Together, we honored Emily's memory, raising the boys in a home filled with love and acceptance. One evening, as we watched the sunset, Rachel turned to me and said, "Thank you for letting me be here. I know this isn't easy for you." "It's not," I admitted. "But Emily wanted this, and I can see how much you love them." "I do," she whispered. "But I also see how much they love you. You're their rock, Mrs. Harper. I don't want to take that away." "You're not. Rachel, I can see that now. Emily would be so proud of you, Mrs. Harper, of how you've handled all of this." I smiled, the tears falling freely now. She'd be proud of both of us. As Jack and Liam ran toward us, their laughter ringing out like music, I knew we were doing exactly what Emily would have wanted, building a life filled with love, warmth, and second chances.